Over the last 10 years, there's been an alarming increase in transport of dangerous explosive oil along the lake on tracks that are in some cases aging and over bridges that age from the Civil War to the Eisenhower administration. In addition to the alarming national increase in oil by rail, which has also come to Lake Champlain, in fact, there's tens of millions of gallons that roll along the lake each week. We've seen a precipitous increase in oil by rail accidents. Over the last 3 years, there's been at least 200 accidents. From 2008 to 2013, we saw a 10-fold increase in accidents. Not only does this mean a risk to the lake in terms of oil spilling into the lake, some of these spills have been in the order of 1.5 million gallons. To give you a perspective on that, the Kalamazoo spill in 2010, which left 40 miles of that river polluted, was about 800,000 gallons. In addition to the spill risk, there's also a huge explosion risk. Nowhere has that been more tragically demonstrated than in the July 2013 disaster in Lac Mégantic, Quebec, a small town much like Plattsburgh, much like Burlington, much like a place like Montpelier or many of the towns along the western side of the lake, where 60 cars set loose from the top of a hill and rolled through the town at an uncontrollable speed, derailed, causing massive explosions that basically eviscerated the town and tragically ended 47 lives. That town is forever changed and forever scarred. That end of the lake, which received a huge amount of oil, is still extremely polluted. A recent study has shown that aquatic life in that end of the lake is at historic lows, and over 50% or around 50% of the fish that are in that section of the lake show deformities, in some cases extreme deformities. And behind me we have pictures of the town and pictures of other explosions. And since Lac Mégantic, we've had explosions in West Virginia, in North Dakota, in Ontario. Very fortunately, those accidents did not occur next to population centers, but if they did, it would have been awful. As you can see from this picture, which gives a really good perspective, that is a train, and that's the size of the explosion. I mean, we're talking about massive, massive damage. The towns along the lake and Lake Champlain do not need to be the next Lac Mégantic, and that is why groups are calling for this moratorium or this ban on oil by rail. We need to protect our lake from this risk. We have concluded that there is no safe way to transport this oil at this time. The trains that roll along this lake are sometimes twice the length of the train that destroyed Lac Mégantic. The danger is just simply too high. We need to use our rail infrastructure to benefit our communities. We need to use our rail infrastructure to get us off oil, not to make us more dependent on oil. We need to use our rail infrastructure to move safe products, not harmful products. And we think that the rail infrastructure that exists along the lake can be used in a beneficial way. But using it for oil by rail, especially at the increasing rate, is simply a risk that the lake and these communities cannot afford.
And I feel this is a bold action that the city of Plattsburgh has taken, and that's what is needed from our municipalities. We need to stand up and become the advocates in a bold and aggressive way, so that we bring the attention to bear on this issue that our leaders at the federal level need to recognize. This is a matter of weighing the human needs, the human and all life consequences if there were to be a derailment. There is, a driving theory that kind of has guided our outlook on what we need to do in terms of the transport of products, the extraction of products, whatever. But I think what we're trying to say is human needs, the needs of all life, needs to be a primary consideration. And that's why I believe very strongly that this is the kind of message that all of our groups and all of our various municipal entities need to state very strongly.
The Adirondack Park is the largest park in the contiguous United States. We think it's every bit as important as a national park, and we also believe that Congress would not think it was a good idea for oil trains to be rolling through a national park. We have the added dimension here of danger to human beings and communities that would not be found in a national park. Because the Adirondack Park has 130 little towns and hamlets in it, there are a lot of people in harm's way along the railroad tracks between here and Albany. And at the same time, we have the potential for an environmental disaster to take place. Not only is this the largest intact deciduous forest in North America, but this is also a place that is considered to be a biosphere reserve by the United Nations. We're standing in a place that's been recognized for its environmental quality and for the fact that it has a lot of folks in it, even though it's well preserved and has a great deal of nature that could be considered wild. But the danger here is also to a drinking water supply for 180,000 people. Lake Champlain serves as water for people from Vermont, New York, and Quebec. If it gets polluted by oil, it will be very difficult for that to be viable in the future. So we have grave concerns about the environment, about communities, and about wild lands here, and we're hoping that the federal government takes them seriously.
This is a very real existential threat today. What you see in the photographs behind us could happen in these communities. These oil trains carrying Bakken fuel oil in cars that are not fit to carry that commodity, they snake through our communities for 100 miles along Lake Champlain and through the Adirondack Park. They are putting at risk our communities, as well as the economy, the ecology, the culture and recreation that is the heart and soul of the communities here. And it's also where we've made tremendous public investment in trying to restore and protect Lake Champlain, the Adirondack Park, because of the value and the importance to our communities around here. And they are very much at threat. It's not a matter of if, it is a matter of when that something like this happens in our backyard. And that's why today we are saying no to these oil trains. Let's use our train infrastructure and our trains to carry things that are safer, that bring rewards to our communities, not just risks. It is a really critical issue. We need to act now, and we're asking our federal leaders to act in response and protect these communities and the fish, the wildlife, the water resources that are so fundamental to our quality of life.